everyone, I thought I'd hop on here and we would take a look at our next Friday focus, which is my Philodendron Spiritus Sancti. So this is an aroid. You guys have seen it a couple times on my page. I've only had this one for about 6 months and it is ready for an up pot. So we're actually going to do that today, give it a little bit more room to grow. So this plant is actually a species. This you can find in the wild, typically in the Amazon rainforest, a very small section. So it is actually endangered due to, deforestation and all kinds of other issues. This plant actually lives as an epiphyte, so it's actually going to be hanging from the trees. So, and it gets these very long pendant-like leaves with its little ears. So for a while, this was a big deal in the plant community. Everybody wanted this and couldn't get their hands on it. So there was a lot of poaching issues. There's some stories about this being stolen in a conservatory and kind of a black market of plant sales. So as science and things have developed, we now have tissue culture. So this plant doesn't respond very well to propagation. A lot of cuts and things like that, they just don't propagate very well. So they have discovered that this thing does very well with tissue culture. Therefore, now that it is in tissue culture production, we're able to actually afford this. So I purchased this as a very small plant. I actually purchased 5 of this. When I got it in, it was June. This is being recorded in December. This was the plant, the leaf that was actually on this plant when I had brought it in. So what I did, I took the 2. I potted one up in Leca, which is this larger one that I have here. This one actually has 2 plants in it, and I just kind of left it. So this one is in Leca at 6 months old. This leaf is 14 inches from tip to ears. So I also will grow in cocoa and did the same thing with this one. This one's not done as well. Obviously, you could tell that the plant is still very small. It's just not doing as well with this. It is kept in the same spot. They're kind of placed together under grow lights. It's just not doing quite as well, but that's okay. I think I might actually pull this out and put this in Leca eventually here. So today we're going to mess with this one. So if you want to see an amazing one, if you're in the Columbus, Ohio area, they actually have one of these in the Franklin Conservatory, and I will put a video up of that plant. It is pretty cool. So if you're ever in there, you can stop by. Otherwise, this one, like I said, is in Leca, has been for 6 months. And so I have it in one of the pots to where it just kind of sits in the water. And we have the little gauge. Now I was looking at it, realizing that we have roots coming out. So definitely time to pot up. Personally, I think this plant does so well in Leca just because it is epiphytic, and therefore it's just not used to being so wet. And obviously Leca gives it a chance to kind of have some air in there. I'm going to go a little big. So with this plant, it is in a 5-inch pot now. I bought a 9-inch, just so that way I don't have to keep messing with the roots. This plant will be sticking with me for a long time. So we're just going to go on up to a 9-inch. So typically, we wouldn't want to do this necessarily, especially in soil, but I'm a little bit more courageous with Leca. So let's get started. So when I do my Leca, I just put it in a bowl, fill it full of, actually I use fertilizer water, and get it nice and wet. So we're going to go ahead. I probably should find something to scoop with. And get a good layer of this Leca filling the bottom. And I'm probably going to have water everywhere. This is why I don't do a lot of potting videos. Some of you folks do such a great job at keeping it all clean. I don't. So probably about right now. I'm going to attempt to get this out of here. Let's see what those roots look like. So actually, the one thing I forgot that I wanted to do, I wanted to go ahead and put a pole in here. I have this with a stake right now. We're going to put a pole in here while I get this set. So because this plant is already sizing up really nicely, I'm not going to mess with the moss pole. I'm just going to use one of these cocoa plant posts back here. So let's see. We can reuse this Leca. Definitely nothing wrong with it. Let's get off Little Velcro. All right, here we go. There we go. We finally got them released. And there is quite a few roots in there. You can see it's definitely done excellent in this leca. You can also use pond and get the same effect. I just tend to like leca a little bit better. My shelves are mounted to the wall and the pond gets really, really heavy. So, let's see how we're going to put this in here. I think I'm going to just try to pull some of those out a little bit. There's some mixed reviews on whether this is needed or not. Tend to be, I typically just let the plant do what it's going to do. It's going to figure it out. But those are pretty packed in there. So, we have our thing on the side there. And fill it in. Make a mess, of course. I think we are all potted up. Go ahead and get this fastened to the pole here in a minute. And now, one of the reasons that I wanted to pot it up so much larger is in the smaller pot, I'm actually watering this twice a day. It is probably drinking a quart of water a day at this point. And that's a lot to do with the lights and things like that. You know, I've read a lot of these tend to be plants that grow slowly. Not so far in my experience in leca. Like I said, they are growing a lot slower in the cocoa that I'm growing in. And otherwise, we will get this watered and back on the shelf in her home and see how much more she can grow. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment below. And I will see you guys next Friday. Thanks.